Welcome to the ulead podcast, brought to you by the Council for School Leadership of the Alberta Teachers Association. In this episode, Dr. Sean Lessard looks back at his early work in the engagement and development of Indigenous youth programming and school-wide practice and policy innovations. Dr. Sean Lessard is from Montreal Lake Cree Nation in Treaty 6 territory. He's an award-winning writer, researcher, and speaker. He is a former teacher, guidance counselor, and designer of innovative educational programming that supports Indigenous youth both in and outside of schools. Dr. Lessard currently is a professor at the University of Alberta, where his primary research is in Indigenous youth wellness and intergenerational leadership. Please enjoy this breakout session from ulead 2024.
I got some friends here from North Battleford that are, I can't believe they came in the, so eyes on them. I want eyes on them. I think they know my mom, and I need some of those. My mom doesn't believe that, any of that bio. And she just says, can you write something more meaningful? Because, I tried to read like your book and it's like really boring. Thank you for that feedback, Mom. Thank you for building me up. Thank you for your coaching. Thank you for what you do for me, Mom. I was teasing. I was this session before. I was teasing because I'm really. You got to transition your body from one place to the next place, as you know. And I'm like, I was like 17 hours away, and I got in here really late last night from a really isolated community on the Manitoba border. And so I'm like, and then I was talking to some of my friends, my chiefs, back home, and what are you doing, Lessard? We're in Edmonton. I said, well, no, I'm in Banff right now. I'm actually, shamefully, I'm at in the Baron Shaughnessy room, the most colonial room I've ever been in my life. And I'm sorry. And then the organizers are so kind. They're feeding me chocolate strawberries. I said, this better not be on tape or anything. My people are going to be so angry. They're going to disown me. It's just, so I'm trying to eat chocolate strawberries. My chief's just like, what? I got no words for you, Sean. You've given it all up, hey? I said, and when I walked in the door, I just started laughing. And I'm looking at this white guy right now. Baron Shaughnessy's looking at me right now. We're making contact. This very ironic, hey? I got you, you got me, so we're giggling, and I took a picture of it. So, in some lonely trip, I'll look back at that picture and have a laugh that we got this shared experience together. And thank you for coming, and thank you for Nelson for, sponsoring me to come here. I really appreciate that. I'm going to read from, at the opening keynote, I was like, I just came in here. I just want to write down a few things because some people are asking me, what is it that you do, Sean? I do a couple different things. So I kind of wrote this opening SNL monologue for you. So here we go. Opening. Acknowledge Nelson. Oh, thanks. Sorry. Say hi to Montreal Lake Cree Nation. Yes. Okay, are we ready now? Okay. Imagine that's my speech. I just word for word off this, hey? So I said I wrote my life, are my field notes, stories from the field, quite literally, 15 years of field notes I have, and the stories that I write in my journal. I used to write every single day when I was first starting in schools, right? In a high school, before the graduation coach model, before those pieces, I was designing programs to try to work innovatively with Indigenous kids to not only graduate, but imagine beyond graduation. Graduation isn't good enough. That's what I was saying. I'm a professor. I'm a writer, researcher. I'm a father. My work encompasses Indigenous youth wellness. And I said post-graduation transformation. I do this in the practical, in the field, working closely with leaders, teachers, community, but always students, so I don't forget and I don't get lost along the way. I am my own school. I have my own school number, quite literally. I do that. You'll often find me working in the in-between spaces of school and community. 7 days a week I work, relentlessly advocacy. That's not work-life balance. It's just the way my life is by working in so many different places. On average, I send over 300 individual messages to students across Canada, the United States per week. not in ChatGPT, like on actually real individual messages. I have groups of students that I send messages of hope and positivity as part of my practice. Messages of hope and possibility, nudging, celebrating what we call the purple rain. The purple rain is the small wins, the micro wins, the reminders, the everyday belongingness, the mundane. The purple rain is a code that we know to indicate positivity, relentless positivity within students making a life, making their way to school for another day, step by step, or bird by bird, we say. Right now, I'm serving in 17 different First Nation communities, working with staff, teachers, community, but always students, co-designing radical education innovation. That's what we talk about. Try to find space that's more like it. Designing wellness hubs in different communities, online course interactions, field experiences, not field trips. I never call them field trips. That's reductionist. It's about a field experience because the field experience provokes imagination so we could see ourselves differently, be seen differently. In one place in North Battleford, I'm part of a Las Vegas style residency, 3 days per month. At least I'm trying to get there 3 days per month. I'm the native Adele. I'm the native Bruno Mars. I'm the native Katy Perry in this place. But I don't have any talent. I don't get paid much, but I love what I'm doing because I'm actually quite literally back in my home high school, in this different role. 1992 was a long time ago. In this school, I get unfettered access in a small budget to inspire change with a grade 12 cohort of First Nation and non-First Nation students. I am home physically, metaphorically, and spiritually in this place. I'm working with the leadership and staff to try to shift the place just in a small way. Shift some stories is what I'm hoping for. In other places, I spend late evening winters working with students in school, outside of school and gyms. The oldest student I'm working right now is 65 years old, trying to get her grade 12 education, and we're going to get there. And we are going to celebrate when we get there. I'm trying to keep a link to the possibilities beyond school. These are life transformative changes, not only for them, but for me. I'm often found most these days at their favorite place, their favorite haunt. It's a place I hate. It's called the Cat Cafe on White Avenue. Lessard, what's wrong with your eye? Well, that's funny you ask. I told you in the damn first place, I'm really, really allergic to cats. But why is your eye closing? Because I'm really, really allergic to cats. No matter what, I said we could go any place. I could take you to Earl's. We could go to a fancy place. We can have chocolate strawberries, for God's sake, but you're taking me to the Cat Cafe. Quite literally on White Avenue in Edmonton. 6, 7, 10 cats crawl over you while you try to eat like baked goods and drink coffee. I don't know the appeal to this. They could pick. They have freelance pick. So I meet them quite literally 7 days a week in the space. Always, usually in the evening, often on Sundays. But I have an online class where I just try to keep connected. And that's the place we connect with. And I hate it. But I'll go there. And I just can't believe the one young woman that I was working with. She goes like, Lessard, like, your eye looks weird. Yeah, it's swelling shut right now. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's because I told you, like, I don't know, what you're doing in your health classes or your science classes or just like, and you know what allergies are? Yeah, that's what this is. She goes, yeah, it just looks really weird. You look weird. I'm embarrassing. I'm embarrassing you. My eye, it's just drooping. Hey, I'm like, and she goes, and it just keeps on watering. Yeah, and I'm breaking out in a rash. But I love you, and I believe in education. But can we please pick another damn place, please? So the Cat Cafe is like one of my classrooms, and quite literally, that's what I do. And the other part of my work is around like 12-month schooling. Working with kids, we don't take break in July and August. So we do 12-month schooling always, right? So it keeps me out of trouble. It diagnoses my undiagnosed ADHD. And now I'm here with you today. And I'm going to share some pieces, and you're leaders in this place. And I want you to, just please imagine with me, and I don't do prescriptive, right? I'm not going to give you like a top 7 list of like what you should do with Indian kids. I know you know what we got to do, but I'm going to give you some pieces that have worked for me. And I know you as leaders, I could say this like in a more prescriptive way. My best work is when leaders let me imagine all the possible ways and said, Sean, try to figure it out. I'm not going to stop you. You're a smart guy. Figure a way out. I'll push the barriers, make it happen. Just stop talking about it. Just do it. That's leadership exceptional to me. Try to figure out a way. That's the first time we ever got to try a summer school experience working with First Nation schools in Enoch Cree Nation. I was working in a big district, Edmonton Public School. Some folks, would understand where that place is. And there's a lot of rules in districts, as there should be. And a whole bunch of kids came to me from the local community, Enoch Cree Nation, which is really close to on the west side of Edmonton. And they said, Lessard, we want to graduate, but we can't. And I said, like in my old, teacherly way, I said, well, just take summer school. We'll figure it out. You're not listening, Lessard. Our parents have jobs. Buses don't run in the summer, and the band won't pay to do summer school. So we have to figure out another way. I had an awesome principal where I could share and actually have the bravery and the courage to actually speak to her and say, this is a problem. And she said, you know what? We'll figure out a solution. Why are you telling me about it? Figure out a solution, write it down, and then let's figure it out. What would the budget look like? Figure it out. So we figured it out. So I picked 4 teachers that wanted to think differently with me. And instead of having them come to school, we taught on the res. We taught in a garage. It was early work of beginning summer school experience. That was 20 years ago. So for 20 years in Enoch Cree Nation, we've been doing summer school for credit, which actually radically shifted the possibilities for graduation because it freed up their course load. But the reason why I'm saying that, and this is the most prescriptive I'll be, is your leaders, future leaders in buildings, in the best wisdom that I ever got was use your imagination. I will create this for you as your principal, but figure out a way and I'll support you. That will allow you to do all kinds of things, to sail through borders and boundaries that we don't even know. So I just wanted to share that. That's the only prescriptive thing. Now we check that off. Then let's just talk business. Deal? So the session I called it Bubbling Up. And Bubbling Up is a story I wrote. That's a nice slide, Sean. You're a big ass right now. Sorry about that. Hey, Bubbling Up is a story that I wrote. It's about my kid, my daughter, but not in a navel gazing kind of way. It's about kids. It's about identity. It's about the bubbles, that we all have in us. And I wrote this during COVID because for a number of reasons, in those dark days, you have to really return, reimagine, and revisit the rootedness about what sustains your stories, what sustains you as a person in dark times. That's what I'd say. And one of the things that I always wanted to do was not make my mom fall asleep and write something for fun because in my life, spent 17 years in university and I've been writing all these research pieces and case studies and all this piece that'll put everybody to sleep. And like my mom said, can you write me something interesting actually? So I sat at my kitchen table and I said, I want to start writing kids books. And that's the next chapter. What I want to do in my life, I want to start writing kids books so they can be more accessible for the kids that I'm working with because they are never going to find my dusty stories, in the places that they hang out. So I wrote this piece called Bubbling Up. I'm thankful for Nelson plug that they helped me out. I want to make a comic book out of it. That's my imagination. So if you could use your imagination to help me think of some of the images, I'd appreciate that right now. Are you listening, Nelson? Let's make a comic book. Bubbling up. Bubbling up like a soda pop fizzing inside of me is how I feel. This feeling's in my stomach always. You see, I want to tell the stories my dad has shared with me and the story his mother and grandmother share with him about his home and community. He must really like these stories because he's always talking about them in some way. I want to put my hand up. I want to reach real high and tell my teacher what I know. I want to tell the world how much I know about all these things he'd share with me, but I can't, even when it's bubbling up inside of me. I go silent. I stay silent always. You see, my dad, he's Woodland Cree. He tells me many stories of his home and the people in his community. I guess as his daughter, this makes me Woodland Cree also. I'm just learning, still learning, always learning. I go back home to his community with him sometimes. And let me tell you, it's a long ways away from the city. We have to travel all day, no cell phones, he says here. I won't tell Dad, it might disappoint him to know that drive's way too long. When we go back home to the community, we fish together. We walk down the forest trails and he always wants to hold my hand. It's different here in this community. There's so many trees and water in this forest place. He tells me how happy he is when I come home with him. I believe him when he says that. I'm not going to tell him I don't really love fishing, but I'll still give it a try. It's usually just me and my big sister that travel back home. I wonder about that. I could see that he's so proud when he's with us in his community. He literally and annoyingly introduces us to everyone. First the elders, then vice chief, then chief, and his cousins and aunties and his family. There's so many people to meet in this place. Everyone's laughing all the time. It seems it's exhausting here. It bubbles up inside of me, some of these stories that he shares with me. Little bubbles inside me start floating from the bottom to the top of my stomach, reaching out in all directions. I think when I imagine, they're all kinds of colors, mostly bright yellow is my favorite. They're different shapes and sizes, small to large and large to small. They have this way of gently lifting me up inside. Dad says, always be proud of your woodland Cree roots. The stories are deep inside you. Maybe these stories he speaks of are the bubbles that I'm feeling inside me, wanting me to float, wanting me to take flight in some way. I don't quite know what it means when he says that to me. I hope someday he solves this riddle for me, but that's my dad always speaking like that. I'm used to it by now. I'm used to him by now. And his ways have never, ever given me the answers I'm looking for. I want to tell my teacher. I want to tell my friends. I want to tell all the stories he shares with me, even the stories of fishing, I guess, would be okay at this point. At his home, I notice he has beautiful art, buffaloes in nature, bears, and colorful circular images all over the walls. My dad writes stories about his home and his community in his journals. He doesn't know this, but I sometimes go through the journals and read them all by myself. I read about the stories of him as a young boy, my little brother and sisters. Dad takes me to so many places to share about his culture, about our culture, our woodland roots, he says. He always says, someday you'll understand more. I wish you would just hurry up and tell me. Bubbling up, it's like bubbles filling inside me. I get so excited to try and share some of the stories, but to tell you the truth, I don't think people will believe me. Some might even laugh, even though I have been all these places with my dad. You see, I have light brown skin. I have the wildest curly hair, at least that's what my dad calls it. He says it's my superpower. I have brown eyes like him, but they're a different sort of brown mixed with green, so that makes it different. That makes us different. My eyes are round, his are differently shaped. He says my middle name, Sage, comes from a place of stories. It's funny because I don't even know what that means when he says that, but let me guess. Someday I'll understand. I sit in my desk and squirm, hoping that no one asks me when we talk about these ideas at school today. I hope no one notices how uncomfortable I am, that my face is starting to turn a little red, even when it's not visible. The bubbles rise up faster, quicker during these times, and then when I go silent and say nothing like I do every time, I can feel the fizz inside me disappearing. It's at this point that the bubbles begin to no longer float. They slowly lose their shape, become flat, and float back slowly down to the pit of my stomach. I'm wondering sometimes if this is where they really belong. At this point, I can start to quietly hear his voice inside of me repeating regularly to be proud of your woodland roots. At this point, I can feel him holding my hand, walking down the woodland trails of our community. At this point, I can remember the sounds of laughter in a different language as he made me meet all those people. I guess they're my people also. I'm just beginning to understand this now. I could see it and remember when I think about the fish, the stories in his journals, and all the places he's trying to show me. Through his art, the stories, and the possible many meanings of my middle name, S-A-G-E, Sage. It's bubbling up once again like a soda pop fizzing inside of me. It is how I feel. I want this feeling to be in my stomach always. Tineke, thank you, Dad. Thank you. Hey. Yeah. You know, it seemed like when I'm reading that, like, oh, it's just navel gaves and that's a guy just writing about his kid. But it's not really about my kid, you know. It's about the bubbles that exist in all of us. It's the bubbles are our stories, in that we want those bubbles to have all kinds of shapes and sizes, and we want them to lift up. We want kids to actually have them animated in different colors and not go back to that pit of their stomach, you know, to keep on flying, to keep on finding those different form, shapes, and sizes. Man, that strawberry chocolate looks good right now. Undiagnosed ADHD. But it's about the stories inside us, right? It's the identity pieces. And I hope you could see some images in your mind. Yeah. I just read that with kids in one of the most unhopeful places that I've been in a long time. I drove 17 hours yesterday to come here for this, which I'm really appreciative, you know, and I have to transform literally my body from where I was to here. I was spending time on a suicide intervention with kids in a really like a real bleak place. You know, 10 teachers don't show up for school, yet the kids keep on coming to school for some reason. And that's the hopeful piece that I'm thinking about. I'm thinking about those kids from Sandy Bay right now when I share that story with you. And we go back and forth, because sharing stories actually lifts me up and gives me bubbles inside so I can keep on generating energy to listen to their stories. But I could tell you, You know what's so interesting to me when I'm thinking about Marcus, who I sat with this long, beautiful, flowing hair, the curliest Indian hair I ever seen. We were just laughing. He goes, Lessard, what do you think of this? It's different. It's different, Marcus. You know, you're going to get noticed, Marcus. You like it? I like it. But grade 12, 3 credits away. Guess what, Marcus? I said, we're making this, right? And that's not just the beginning. We're not just looking to graduation. We're going to make this somewhere else. Let's think big. So we sit with cups of tea, and quite literally my backpack, I carry all the time is filled with, pouches of tea. If I go to the, airport, I'm a little nervous that they might think I'm like transporting like drugs and tea bags or something like that. But I always think no matter where you are, even if you don't have Wi-Fi or like service, like it's a 5.5 hour trip on a gravel road that just kept on going and going and going. And I'm not tech savvy, so I didn't download anything. I just sat there in pure silence with my brain and said, when is this going to end? And it kept on going and going and going. But what I'm trying to say is that no matter where we are, it isn't that hard to find a teapot, a little place to sit and have a cup of tea with a kid. So I'm hoping, you know, at the end of the session that we steal some tea bags and then you write a message, because I'm going to send them to kids when I go visit them in these different places. I'm definitely not sneaking the Cat Cafe. I'll get banned because they're already selling tea. That's their business. Okay. I'm not putting them out of business, even though I'd like to call animal control, because I don't think that's normal to have that many cats where you're trying to eat and like do some good work and think with kids. I don't think it's good for my long-term health effects either. Just saying, they don't even make you sign a disclaimer there. You have to sign a disclaimer at Bouncy House, but at this cat thing, nothing. They just crawl on you. It's weird. It's really weird. But some of the best conversations I've had, I'm not saying it's good, but it's strange. And this is the bubbling up kid in the story. Winter Sage. Sage is a beautiful name. Sage is that's female medicine, the most beautiful medicine for women. Sage, the meaning of her name. She'll come to that. She'll figure that out. I don't give her the answers in a prescriptive way. That's her work to do. But that's what it actually means. Beautiful. And the place that she grew up, you know, where I grew up in North Balfour, there's all kinds of sage in those places. Beautiful sage, buffalo sage, all kinds of sages. But what I'm trying to say is that as leaders, we come from these different places. You're coming from all these geographical places. We're coming from all kinds of different orientations with different stories, with different bubbles. But the common place that I think that we'd want regardless, you know, here I am as this guy from Montreal Lake, Treaty 6, a Woodland Cree person telling some stories. We want the same thing for our kids and grandchildren when we drop them off at school. This is the first day of kindergarten, and I love this story because I treasure it. Went for the first report card of the teacher, because I'm a professor at the University of Regina, and she's just a lovely kindergarten teacher. She was trying to show me all the diagnostic testing that they're trying to do with reading, that they're getting ready, her readiness and pieces like that. And I said, I don't really care about that. She goes, what do you want to know, Sean? Dr. Sean. My name's Sean. I'd like to know if she has friends. And does it seem like she likes school? Because of course she's never going to share that with me. Does it seem like she's getting along with others? Like, what is it like? Does she laugh? Like, where does she hang out? What's her favorite thing to do? And we just sat there for a pause and she goes, I never even thought about it that way. I thought you'd want all this. That stuff will come, I said, if she's feeling good in the place. Right? So we had this laugh, but it's always the same thing. You know, sometimes I go into some really difficult spaces like the Toronto District School Board with all their superintendents, and they're saying like this, oh man, this Indian guy is going to talk to me about reconciliation and white privilege and all these pieces. And no, I said this, the common places that we'd want the same for children, regardless, in schools. So let's think from that way and let's try to find some commonalities. That's what I'm thinking about these days. That's why I need you, you know? So I said the lights turned on and we were in uncomfortable, uncharted, and unknown waters. And what I'm talking about in that, well, I wrote that during COVID because I wanted to do something different. I wanted to do something that was like filling my cup and sustaining me. And I was writing a lot about, okay, like Sean, what's going to keep you going? Because, you know, just like you folks, I think we're still in grief right now. I think we're still just trying to come out of these pieces. I lost so many people in my community. And the hard part about it in community, and it's not just my community, everybody has hard stories, is that you have to go to this gate. So I couldn't go say goodbye to some of the people that passed during COVID. I had to stay because I live in the city, I had to stay at the gate to say goodbye. So I drive a long ways, 8 hours to go home just to say goodbye like this. That is not normal way to like say goodbye to somebody. So we're working on that. We lost a lot of people in my community. And the reason why I'm saying that is, why is that relevant to what I'm talking about right now? It's relevant because I still think, there's many kids that I've gone to. I've been to so many schools. I think it's like 54 right now this year, and in so many different communities, that so many of the kids still haven't come back to school. And so I just was talking about this, that we have to be gracious to ourselves, have to like double down on the things that are going to sustain us and fill our cup. That's why this gathering is so good, to talk to people, to see people laugh. It makes me happy. Like, this is so good that you came from these places, because this is the bubbling up that I'm talking about. Uncomfortable, uncharted, unknown, I said, creates fear. Fear is closely connected to the cousin anger. And like so many places I'm working on, there's a lot of anger and fear and a lot of like anxiety on staffs, and a lot of anger that I've been working through with staff about trying to get it back. And then the other thing I'm really working on is to try to be like, this notion of pedagogy of love is that kids are trying to figure out with families in some of these places to come back to school, to trust this again. And then the thing that we do, and as a teacher and myself, I try to get it all back when I see them for the first time out of 5 days. You know, I try to hit a Jose Bautista home run and get it all back. I haven't seen him for 5 days. I don't slow down. What I do is I give them every single thing they missed, a stack like this, instead of saying, maybe we should slow down, have a cup of tea. And I should say, hey, how are you doing? But that's my teacher brain, because I'm trying to get back to where I'm supposed to be. It's things I'm thinking about. And I just wanted to share that with you. That's some of the things that I'm still seeing, regardless if it's in the biggest school district in the city, or if it's the smallest little place that I was like, this is still like, you know, present. It's not gone, because it's in our bones in so many different ways. And your teachers are wearing it. Yeah. I'm still a substitute teacher right now. I try to substitute teach on Fridays. So I try to go high school, junior high, elementary, and I do it so I don't forget. Yeah. So it's actually really good. And then when they pay me for substitute teacher, I put it to kids scholarships. So I love it, because I get to see schools in all these different ways. The reason why I'm sharing that story about being a substitute teacher, because it's funny. It's awesome. And then people are saying, Lessard, what are you doing here? I'm a sub, man. Like, can't you just leave me alone? Can a man just be a sub? But the reason why I think it's funny to share this is because I could see how many calls I'm getting as a substitute teacher. The other day, I got 17 phone calls to be a substitute teacher. And it was like Friday. I'm like, that's a shitty move. Friday, hey, 17. I could do a research study on what's going on here. Ooh, this is going to be a heater of a day. And they're like calling me at 5 o'clock in the morning. And I'm like, I'd like to do a little research. Life transitions. What sustains us, not what retains us. That's something I say to kids all the time. And kids say to me this, what's wrong with you, Lessard? No, what sustains you? So I have cups of teas with kids, and I have to say it again. What sustains you, not what retains you. So what makes you keep coming back, Marcus, when you're walking by yourself and 10 of your teachers didn't show to school today? Because I want to be something different than everybody else. I don't want them to say what they think they will of my family. That is a story worth fighting for. What sustains us, not what retains us. Retention's flat. There's no life. Sustaining is a verb. It's movement. It's animate. And kids understand the importance of sustenance. Sustains you, fills you. And we talk about places, spaces, teachers, people, subject, all the things. We map it out individually together with. That's what I do with kids. The same practice applies to teachers. As they think about leaving, as they get grumpy. Right now is a grumpy time in schools right now. So I always try to think about what sustains us, not what retains us. It's just something I'm thinking about. And then we talk about life transitions in the story. And I go speak with kids and working with different staffs and traveling around a little bit and teaching at the university, which has been really fun. And writing, I want to write from my heart in this next part of my life, write for fun. And I start going back, and then they say, like, Sean, so like, what like brought you to being a teacher? And I have to write it out in my journal, and I journal nearly every single day. And when I don't journal, people think I'm weird, because I walk in the valley and I talk on my phone. And I talk on my phone so I can listen back to it, and then I can write when I have time to write back to it. But I do it almost every single day to unpack actually what I'm seeing, feeling, hearing. It sustains me. But I start thinking about some of those early stories, and then like stories from North Battleford come to my mind. I'm like, I don't know where some of the ideas of like teaching came from. Then I start jotting them out, and some funny stories come to mind. I told some different stories in the early session, and I have a story that popped into my mind for this session. So let me share it with you. I grew up in Montreal Lake Cree Nation at the beginning of my life. And then I popped around to foster care, to foster care, to foster care. And then I got finally picked up on the free agent waiver wire and got adopted to North Battleford, Saskatchewan by a white farm family. My dad thought I was going to be the best farmer. He guessed wrong. He's a horrible general manager. He did not find, he thought he had talent with me. It didn't happen. I remember he's such a quiet man. He had a grade 6 education, but I'd go out with him. I said, "Hey Dad, I'm ready to help out." And I'd come out with a pair of shorts and flip flops and a little muscle shirt. And he'd say like, "Can you please go back inside?" Or like, I'd come up there, "I'm ready to go, Dad. Like I'm a handyman. I have a hammer. I'm ready to go, Dad. I'm good. Just please go back inside." So he gave me a shot. He's seen some things in me at first, and then just finally just straight up gave up. Then he gave me one job. He goes, "Your job is just to shovel grain. Just shovel grain and don't talk." So I shoveled a lot of grain for him. But I grew up in this place in North Battleford, and then finally they adopted me. That's where my name Lessard comes from. I'm a Satian Kingfisher from Montreal Lake Cree Nation. That's my community, my woodland roots. So I have these different names in different places. I have this mom who's just a mountain of a woman, metaphorically, physically. She's like 5 o'clock is supper. You don't mess around. 7 o'clock is breakfast. You don't mess around. You eat what's on your plate and you be respectful. Good mom. She gets really angry at me sometimes. She's she shouldn't be a life coach. If you just want a direct, honest life coach, I hate your writing. Yeah. Thanks, Mom. Like, is this reverse psychology? No, I actually just don't like it. It's like boring. I love you, Mom. I'm glad I'm making you so proud. Yeah. I'm so happy, man. We got a love story. It's like I said this morning, it's our story is what is it? It's the football story, the blind side, but the native one. But she hasn't given me up for adoption. She's still good, eh? She almost did though. A month ago, I slid through town and I ran into her in the grocery store. Yeah, she hated that. Like we came across in she was getting some canned soup and I came across like this and we looked at each other and yeah, it was bad. It's still bad. We're healing right now. We're working through it. But I remember in this piece before going to junior high, grade 6 to 7, and saying to my mom, I want to be an academic student. And she's peeling potatoes at the kitchen sink. And she doesn't even look back. She just keeps on peeling. Mom, I want to be an academic student. Well, that's good. But you got to start dressing me better. She just keeps on peeling potatoes. Mom, you're not listening to me. Like, I'm tired of what you're putting me in. Like, I'm wearing Velcro shoes and going to junior high next year. Like, all the kids wear fancy stuff. The white kids are fancy. Like, and you buy stuff for me at Kresge's and Wilco. Like, I gotta be like, if you like look good, you feel good, you're gonna be a better student. I don't think there's any academic study that says that, but in my mind in grade 6, that if I was gonna be an academic student in this place, that you had to dress better. And so she says, so you think if you dress with fancier clothes that you're going to be a smart student? That's exactly what I'm saying. Look good, feel good, Mom. And I said, I made a list. I'd like you to go buy these for me. I don't want to wear Velcro shoes anymore. I want to wear running shoes, like with lace. Okay. When I go to junior high, I want like Adidas and Nike. All these people are wearing this like graffiti stuff. I want to wear like the white kids, and I'll be like, if I dress good, like I'm going to be a better student. And so my mom said, you know what? I'll take your list and I'll go to the big city of Saskatoon. She goes, you know where I'm going to go? There's a store there. It's called, Army and Navy. We'll find all these things for you. I'm like, okay, that sounds like a colonial store. Baron Shaughnessy would love that. Like this is a good place. That's a fancy white name for a store. It's got to be rich stuff. There's fancy stuff at Army and Navy. Army and Navy is like Giant Tiger. I found out now. Like, did you know that? For those like Army and Navy was not fancy. She lied to me. We're still healing. So, she gets me this bundle of like sweatcetos and I'm so happy. Like every color you could imagine, like ready for the first day of grade 7. Sweatcetos, beautiful colors, like graffiti. And I'm like, and no more like, and I had like shoes with laces, not Velcro. Grade 7 Velcro. That's ridiculous. So I'm ready to rock and roll. No more lunch kit, paper bag. I'm first day of school. I have my Reeboks laid out and I'm like ready to like kick ass in the world. I'm going to be a star student. I'm going to make my family proud finally for the first time. And so I get dressed up. I remember even getting on the bus. I remember Rodney, the bus driver. I remember this day. I come off the bus, Battleford Junior High School, and like the girl of my dreams sees me. Hi, Sean. Nice outfit. And I'm like, shit, I knew it. You look good. You feel good. You get academic. You get the girls. Everything is going on in my life good. This is the best day. In grade 7, the first day, like I'm on fire. I'm answering questions before the teacher can even, I'm like, they're finally telling me to put my hand down. But this is before lunch, but I ran out of steam a little bit. And then they see me in the hallway, this girl, I'll call her, I'll name her Cindy, because these people know her. She goes, Lessard, your pants, we have a problem. I'm like, yeah, look at your pants. Okay. Well, my mom told me about people like you. My mom told me about people like there's going to be jealous people. You got new clothes. You got new things. Yeah. My mom's rich. We got these in the big city, Army and Navy. I don't need your critique. I don't need your lateral violence. As if I said that in grade 7. Hey, I don't need your lateral. You're dysregulating me. You're getting my zone of just using so she's saying, no, we have a problem with your pants. Like people are talking about it. Yeah, they're talking about it because I'm an academic student. Cindy, like, don't ruin the best day of my life. Okay? No, it's your pants. I'm trying to help you. Yeah, what about them? No, they say read books, man. No, they don't. These are like graffiti pants. Everybody's talking about them. A teacher talked about it. Like I said, like, so I look at my pants and it's graffiti and it's like R. Okay, that's good. That's Reebok. E. That's Reebok. A. Might not be, but it could be. D. Not a B. That definitely said read. And then BOOKS in graffiti. She goes, we got a problem. Everybody's laughing about it. I'm trying to help you as a friend, and you're like mad at me. Your pants say read books, man. In graffiti. And you think it's cool. I hate my mom. This is therapy for me. I should be paying you right now. We're working it out between that soup aisle and this story of read books. And I'm like looking, I'm like, unbelievable. So I'm walking around the first day of school, like wearing read book pants. And I'm thinking like, this is going to somehow translate to something good. So I come home just in a rage, like, and saying like, Mom, look. And I'm like, my lips quiver. And I'm like, look what you did to me. Like I said, like, she goes, yeah, you told me to get Reeboks. This says read books. Reebok's a brand. This says read books. She goes, I got it in the $5 basket. I thought it was a great deal. There's a reason why it's in the $5 basket, Mom. And she goes, don't worry, Sean. Don't worry. Kids will forget about this. Okay, Mom. And I'm like quivering. I remember saying, this is grade 7. This is the first day of school. They will forget about it. I go to North Battleford still right now in my residency. They don't forget about it. Like at grade 12 graduation, we talked about it. And then we're old now. We're 49 years old. And they remember, hey, Lessard, remember that time your mama put you in those read book pants the first day? I haven't been back home until this year for a very long time. They haven't forgot. It's still there. And then somebody said something like, we were wondering if they're going to be like, you're going to wear a number shirt the next day or something like that. I said, oh, they'll forget, Sean. They don't forget. I'm still working on healing with my mom. I wish this was a false story. This is an actual true story. I wore those pants proud. And I talked to kids about this. They said, those would be the most awesome pants. You should make them. No, I shouldn't. I don't think in any era those are going to be a good thing. But I start writing these pieces, but maybe that's supposed to be like a literacy catalyst. So maybe that was a message from the creator somehow that I was going to be reading books in my life, and it got manifested itself in these different ways. And I think about stories of like school and how you come to school. And there's a reason why I'm telling stories. We need to laugh, but there's connecting pieces along the way where I think about like, what I call markers, fence posts, I call them sometimes, signalers, signifiers. I start thinking about some of these pieces and, getting to grade 12. And once again, my mom, who should have been a guidance counselor, I guess, we have this beautiful, it's around this time of year. Love is in the air. Like I'm in grade 12. And, she asked me the gigantic question that many parents ask their kids. Are you going to marry her? No, she didn't ask me that. No, she said like, what's your plan for next year after grade 12? Simple. Play a little bit more hockey. Relationship with the girlfriend's really blossoming. You're going to keep on growing with that, right? Take a year, reflect on my life. Beautiful family supper, 5:05. She drops that bomb on me right around this time of year. And she said, quite candidly, every single thing you said there is not going to happen. And then she proceeds to get out of her chair, and a little shelf. She pulls out this collection of college books that she's been collecting for an awfully long time. And I look at my dad, and he just puts his head down like this, eh? And I'm like, this is an intervention. What's going on here? And she goes no, you're going to pick a college by 9:00 tonight. And the other rule is this, Sean, it's got to be 100 kilometers away from this home. I said, there's a college in town, Mom, 15 minutes away. I don't think you're hearing me. She goes, it's going to be 100 kilometers away from here. And I was like, are you kicking me out of the house? No, I'm just asking gently to move along the way. That's what a word wizard she was, hey? Gently asking you to move along the way. What does that even mean? It means get out, right? So 100 kilometers. And I look at my dad, who is my go-to guy, my free agent, my general manager, the man that we were going to be farmers together, and he just drops his head and he won't look up, eh? And I know they're in cahoots, and I don't feel like it. My brothers and sisters, they put their heads down too. So I sat at that table, looked at the notes, looked through the books, found one in Lakeland College. There were some beautiful pictures. There was something called youth work rehabilitation. And I said, maybe I could do that. I don't know anything about that. You mean on my resume right now, I raked seaweed one summer at Aquadeo, and I tried to help my dad, but he won't even give me a reference on the farm. So I don't have a lot of job prospects to I don't know why I think I'd be good at this. But maybe I could be good at this. Maybe this is something I could do. Thankfully, Lakeland College asked you to write an essay. They asked you to get some experience and go look at things. So there's a shelter workshop in town. I asked my mom to drop me off, and I went there on a Saturday. Adults in a factory setting shelter workshop. Adults with cognitive impairment, with disability. I asked if I can go again. Asked if I could go again for another Saturday. And then another Saturday, I actually got up off my chair and actually started to help out. And then I wrote an essay about my experience at the shelter workshop. And I put my application. In my application, I had a 52% average in high school in grade 12. My mark in physical education was 50%. And I never missed a day. It doesn't even physically make sense to how that could happen. I ask about it when I go back. They said, we don't know. Principals assessment practice, we don't know. Yep. Not I was there every day. Yeah, we could see that. Your attendance was there every day, but yeah, you still got 50%. So I put my pieces in there, and then I get a phone call from some woman from Lakeland College. And, she goes, Sean, we're very interested, in your application, but we have a question. I'm like, yes. Do you have cognitive impairment? I'm like, what? What do you mean? That's the recruiting strategy, Lakeland College. Do you have cognitive impairment? The first thing she asked me, that's not a good first opener. And and then my second line is, what do you mean? She goes, that's exactly what I'm talking about. What, no. Wrong response. Yeah. Do you have cognitive impairment? I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, that's what I mean. No, she goes, the issue is your English mark is so low in this essay. Did you write the essay? Yes, I wrote the essay. She goes, it's not even making sense. So we need you to come down here, have an interview, and we want to put you through a battery of tests. Like reading and writing tests? Yes. So I go to Lakeland College and they put me through these tests. Turns out I could read and I could write. Maybe I was just a little disengaged from school. I went through an interview and got accepted to Lakeland College. I was 17 years old, got accepted to Lakeland College. It was an unbelievable experience going to Lakeland College. The first day I go in that class, expected to be like a college environment, what I see on TV. It's me and 38 aunties, older women that were all business, and I was the only guy. And they didn't messing around. They didn't think it was funny, jokes. They didn't like them at all. I'm 17, just walking into organizational behavior class, hey, ladies. They're please sit down. They're in their second part of their career. They're very business oriented. They turned to my best friends. I was a valedictorian with one of the women there, Norma. We still talk. It was an awesome, loving environment to learn. I have my essays. The first essay I wrote was on organizational behavior. I only rake seaweed in my life. Like what could I talk about in organizational? I read this over and I'm like, what are you talking about? How is this even allowable to hand in an essay on organizational behavior? It was an amazing experience, but the best experience in the reason why I'm telling the story in a non-prescriptive way is because the sustaining stories are layered right throughout all of us. I had an opportunity because I needed a job, and a lot of people think that just because you're First Nation that you automatically get access to education. I was disconnected to my community. I didn't go back to my community till I was 17 years old. So also, it's just a misnomer because it doesn't work that way. So I had to get a job just like every other kid. So I looked up a place and I found a job working with a young man who was nonverbal and confined to a wheelchair. So my job every single day with Jeremy was to get him up and ready for school, and every night to give him recreational activities and put him to bed, read him a story, brush his teeth, give him a bath. It was the best job ever for a selfish 17-year-old guy. I learned very quickly to pay attention to silences. I hate 5.5-hour silences when I drive to Sandy Bay by myself with no radio and no downloads and just my thoughts. It's very dark. But this young man, I could tell when he was scared, when we were happy, when he was sad, when there was like fear, when we were having a good day, when we were having a bad day, because you start to read it off their body. I think you'd understand that. The kids like give you this other way to pay attention to their bodies. What an awesome gift. $5.50 an hour, $5.50 an hour. It was best job ever. And I worked with them for 2 years as I went through college. The other part of my job is I was the first Nations player to play with on a volleyball scholarship at Lakeland College. That was a good experience. That helped pay for my education. So even I had I played college volleyball and I had a 50% average in phys ed. Still, the assessment I'm not sure about right now. How did that happen? Disengagement. So the reason why I'm sharing some of those pieces, Lakeland College is like a very important piece. And it's not like a raw story. I spend time with Lakeland College in my life all the time right now. I'm on the board of directors, the board of governors for Lakeland College. And I started a scholarship for single mothers at Lakeland College that I funded for the past 3 years. So when I do a speech like this, I take my money and put speeches and scholarships together. So for this one at Lakeland College is my favorite because it's for single mothers trying to go back to school for the first time to college. So it's awesome. And in its third iteration. And I named it after my biological mom, who later on in life had a chance to heal our relationship after she got well, right? We got to spend the last 5 years of her life together. I came home and metaphorically, physically, and spiritually, and we became very close. She turned into an elder in her later years, and her best gift was she was a cook at the school that worked with kids. So I said, "You gave me gifts, Mom." So like you put them in me, even though we weren't together. That there's bubbles that she gave me, and I believe that to be true. Lakeland College, like I'm so happy. I graduate. I phone my dad, and it's the best day ever. I phone him. I'm like, "Dad," and he goes, "You're going to come back to the farm now, take over the family farm." No, Dad, not happening. You know why? I'm selling fruit on the side of the road in Victoria, BC, and I pump gas at night, and it's the best job ever. And then the phone went silent, and I'm like, I found more change, phone him back. I said, "We lost connection." She goes, "I hung up on you." He goes, "You're the first person in our family, the Lessard family, to go to school. This is the blind side. This is like a movie, man. You went to two-year college diploma and, you passed, you graduated, and now you're pumping gas. And what are you doing? Smelling fruit on the side of the road, did you say?" "Yeah." It's the best job because I could smell oranges and I can taste the difference. And I'm setting records for selling fruit. I meet women from all over the world, Dad. It's an amazing job. And he goes, "That's what you're going to do." "Well, for now." And I swim every day. I go for a run every morning. It is the best job ever. And I like pumping gas. I'm meeting a lot of people in Victoria. So it's a great job, Dad. But I put an application in late August in Saskatoon Public Schools to be a youth worker. And I got a phone call in late August. And a woman said, "There's a job opening in a program called the Main Street Program. Would you come for an interview?" And so I hitchhiked back to Saskatchewan. I tell kids never hitchhike. Those were different times. So I always tell them, you don't do that. That's bad. Very bad. So I went there and I'm looking for like a traditional school because I've never worked in a school before. Never worked in a school. It's a brick school on Broadway. It's a building, an office building. It's a outreach program called the Main Street program with a clientele primarily Indigenous youth, primarily female Indigenous youth that are just trying to transition out of the sex trade. So my job is a very different job in this place as a 19-year-old guy. But I had the best teacher in the teacher there. Her name was Laurel. She had a master's in educational psychology. She was a counselor and she was like a gentle teacher. She always told me to teach sideways, Sean. I said, I don't know what you mean, Laurel. Listen sideways. So if they're angry and they swear at you, don't look at it directly. Try to like look at it sideways and ask the question what they might be missing. What reframed me all the time when I was working with really angry and hurt kids, anger is connected to fear and hurt. So they weren't angry at me. So we learn these ways. Really, at a young age, I got to spend time working with kids in these different ways, in formative years. And then she said, after year 2, you can't be here anymore. I want you to go be a teacher, Sean. You have to be a teacher. And I said, I'm not smart, like university smart. I don't do that. And she said to me as a 19-year-old that we don't talk that way in here. We don't talk that way in here. We don't talk that way about yourself in here. Well, what do you, I said, I just don't know how to do that. I'm not like a university person. So what I'm going to do, she said, is we're going to go spend time at the university this year. Once a week, I'm going to take you to coffee shops that you've never been to. I'm going to get you to listen to music that you haven't heard before. We're going to spend time in the library. We're going to write essays together. You're going to spend time in kids' classes. My colleagues' classes. You're going to be so comfortable with that you'll be able to walk 10 feet tall here, Sean. At 19, she told me to walk 10 feet tall. She was right. She even used her credit card because I didn't have a credit card. I had a Sears card for some reason. Like I said, what was I doing? Like buying a lawnmower? Like this lady was really beautiful. And she's like, do you want a Sears card? Yes, I do. So I bought it. So I got one. And I don't know how that shouldn't happen. That shouldn't happen. So you can't use your Sears card to register for university. I found out. Can you put this on here? I'll give you a lawnmower for like my registration package. But she used her credit card to help me. That's still a barrier in 2024 for kids. If you don't have a credit card or credit, you can't you can't access it. There's a challenge there. And they won't take damn Sears cards because there's no Sears anymore. Sears catalog, Sears cards. Like what? You mean I picked the wrong business? I should have went with Zellers. The thing about those pieces, and it seems like, okay, people would say, okay, this guy's just telling stories. This has nothing to do with my leadership piece. It's not prescriptive. The piece that I learned from that, when I go unpack and actually look at what sustains me, what actually sustains my practice, is the stories that are nested deeply inside, that are rooted in my bones. And this story has been like a transformative story for me, transactional in that every single thing I do with kids is about like not field trips, it's about field experiences. When I'm working with kids, we're going to learn to walk 10 feet tall. We say it on our t-shirts, we write in our books, we talk about it in all the language that we do. When we talk to kids, I talk to them about when I'm sitting with kids over a cup of tea with my bag filled with tea, which I'm going to get you to write a message to kids on a bag of tea for me to take them to different places like Sandy Bay so we could be more hopeful. So Marcus can actually get to graduation and post-graduation. I will bring him tea before June, I said. And now we're connected, him and I, through WhatsApp, a safe way to connect. I say to kids, we got to walk through oranges. And they're like, Lessard, are you high? No, I don't do drugs. We don't understand what you're talking about, like walking through oranges. Yeah, so walking through oranges, you guys. Remember we talked about walking through oranges? So if you can't taste it, you've never tasted it. If you never felt that, if you haven't felt the texture, if you can't tell the difference between different types of oranges in the ripeness, if you haven't smelled it, how are you supposed to imagine it, to capture it? The only way to do that is through experience. And so what I'm saying with kids that haven't been to different places, a lot of the kids that I just spent time with in Sandy Bay, they've never been out of their community before. So I'm asking them to do all these big things. But if you need to walk through oranges with them. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? And the reason why that matters to me is because as leaders, You mean, I think that message, like, is not just about kids. It's about the people in our building, right? Because what I want to do more than anything is provoke imagination. And if you provoke imagination, you can walk through a lot of things. Difficult times, dark times. Do you believe me? It's the only thing I'm hopeful for. It's the only thing, I've learned working with kids and sending messages on a weekly basis, on a daily basis. You know, I don't say I know about stuff, but like my whole life's been working with kids on the margins. We're not marginalized. We're just on the margins, right? What sustains us, not what retains us. Kids know that. Junior high kids will understand what that means when you unpack the actual meaning of that. The same message for me, I talk to more staff about this than anything, is like, what sustains you here? Because it's awfully seems it's April and you're awfully grumpy right now, right? And I know it's a tough job and we're in very different conditions with kids. Kids are different right now. But like, what is going to sustain us? What's going to keep us going, right? Because we need you. We need you. That's back home. I talk about like connecting back to our stories. Some kids need this. You know, we wouldn't want to make assumptions, especially like I always talk about this, just to disrupt the reductionist boxes about what we think about like what First Nations people are or what Métis people are. There's not a singular story. We've heard that in TED Talks, right? So I'm at the salad bar at a big buffet, and this wonderful woman from Alberta Education comes up to me, Sean Lessard, you're effing MI, you're effing MI. Like, I'm so excited to meet you. I'm like, is this woman swearing at me? Like, I'm just having soup. She's like, you're effing MI. And she kept on saying it, and I didn't even know what it meant. This is when that first terminology came. She goes, I said, can you please explain that to me? I don't know what you're saying, ma'am. You're First Nation, Métis, Inuit. No, I'm not. I'm not all those things, man. I'm Woodland Cree. I'm from like northern Saskatchewan. Yeah, but you're effing MI. No, I'm not. Yes, you are. So she's telling me I'm like effing MI. But the piece, what I'm trying to say, that we get tricky in school is we put it in a box, right? Thinking that there's one way to get there. The reason why I say there's many ways, sometimes it's through hip hop 101 and sometimes it's through powwow dancing or jigging. But the puzzle to this story is through the cup of tea to find what the complexity is, to unpack the actual, you know, to disrupt the assumption by not checking a box and say, let's haul down all 250 First Nation Métis students for a one-off. No, let's have a cup of tea and like actually think about what's going to sustain you here in the school. What's working? Do you know how I know it's working? If I go to a school right now, high school, if I ask them how many credits do you have and name me your teachers' names, and if they can't tell me how many credits they have and they can't name all their teachers, I know they're leaving. I got it down to a science, over 90%, especially right now because it's April. You test it. Yep. Okay. Blurring knowledge. Sometimes it's a little bit in between. My dad was a psychologist. I talk about map of the landscape. He said, go up in that barn, throw balls against the wall, and don't talk to girls. I wish I would have listened to him. Yeah, that's my home place. That's a barn. It's a Staney story. Like, I talk about your stories. This is a sad story. I don't even know if I have time to talk about it. This is Lessard Road. You know where that was. I was teaching at the University of Regina, and this one young person in the back is like, I showed the slide, and she said, Dr. Lessard, I feel so bad. Okay. You could take a break. Sorry. You mean, no, I feel so bad, Dr. Lessard. I'm from North Battleford too. And my name's Lessard. And I'm like, my dad has a love child somewhere. Like, oh, Dylan, I'm like, please, I don't even have tenure. Like, can we talk about this at break? No, Lessard, we're not related, but I just feel so bad. I said, can we talk about this? This is in front of everybody. She's yelling. And she goes, no, I just feel so bad. Like in grade 12 night, like me and my friends, I love this sign. I chopped it down. It's in my bedroom right now. She goes, do you want it back? I'm good. She's like, and so she shows me on her Instagram, this sign's in her bedroom. Like, I'm like, you probably know the person. It's in her bedroom. And she's like, can I bring it to school to give it to you back? No, I'm like, what am I going to do with the sign? But that sign's still not there. It's gone. But the story is that I'm trying to say that the importance of kids' names matters, tied to the geography. We don't mess around on the reserve. We don't have wood. We put steel. Chop that down. I told her, chop that down with your axe. But in my other place, I'm a kingfisher and a settee, and I know the secret of my stories, and my name means something. And I'm proud of that name now. And I work with kids to try to identify their name and the connection and the geography to it. Oops. This story is the rapids. I said there's a geography in all our stories. Guess what? That's not just an Indigenous thing. We can't own that. That is a storied thing. That's in all our stories, regardless of where we're from. And I think this is so important to understand sustaining kids. Pedagogy of the heart and backpack filled with teas. You're going to fill my backpack with tea. I want you to write a note, if you have time, a message to some kids. I'm going to go to like a whole bunch of places and I'll use those tea bags and I give them the tea bag with your message. We do that all the time. It is one of the most wonderful conversations to see a kid get a bag of tea, something simple. I just steal it from hotels. So it's really awesome. And I hope I don't get pulled over by the border because they think I'm packing something else in these tea bags. But it matters. Dodgeball, that should be banned. Sorry about that. Risk aversive. In my life, I bought 300 bikes last year for kids because I thought that every kid in my community should have a bike so they can bike to their stories, bike to their imagination. I made a unguided assumption. I thought all kids had bikes. I forgot. Our wellness hub. We do school 12 months a year back home in my community. We're trying to fight off meth. They're trying to give meth to 8-year-olds in my community. We're going to beat them. We're going to beat them. That's why I need people like you. Mitho Waskawawan. Moving well. That's what we talk about when we work together with the kids. And they all know this. We wear that on our t-shirts and they can all say it. Moving well together, spiritually, physically, in relationship together. Physically, spiritually, in relationship together is how we deal with each other. We don't yell at each other. Mitho Waskawawan's here. Start with a story, end with a story, then go outside for a pint. Is that the social thing that you're talking about? I sit at my desk and squirm, hoping that no one asks when we talk about these ideas at school today. I hope no one notices how uncomfortable I am, that my face is starting to turn a little red even when it's not visible. The bubbles rise up faster, quicker during these times, and then when I go silent and say nothing like I do every time, I can feel the fizz inside of me disappearing. It's at this point that the bubbles begin to no longer float. They slowly lose their shape and become flat and float back slowly down to the pit of my stomach. I'm wondering sometimes if this is where they really belong. At this point, I could start to quietly hear his voice inside of me repeating regularly to be proud of your woodland roots. At this point, I could feel him holding my hand and walking down the woodland trails of our community. At this point, I can remember the sound of laughter in a different language as he made me meet all those people. I guess they're my people also. I'm just beginning to understand this now. I could see it and remember when I think about the fish, the stories in his journals, and all the places he's trying to show me through his art and stories and the possible many meanings of my middle name, S-A-G-E, Sage. It's bubbling up once again like a soda pop fizzing inside of me. Because how I feel, I want this feeling to be in my stomach always. Tinaki, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the ulead podcast. Make sure you subscribe to never miss an episode. You can also visit our website at atacsl.ca to get more information on the work of the Council for School Leadership.